Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Watercolor. So today I am painting the 5th page of the Fairy Tales and Legends watercolor coloring book. It's a book that I hand make through the use of lithographs. And let's get started. This is the 5th page. So it's just a dragon on a rock looking to the left. The light source will be from the upper left hand side. This is what the image will look like once we are done. So not a lot of variation in color, but it's a very nice contrasting palette. So yeah, let's get started. As always, have a scrap piece of paper, a place to mix your colors like a porcelain dish or a glass dish, your brush, and a rag. So the very first thing that we will do is if you didn't purchase your colors from me, I make my own watercolor palette, but if you didn't purchase the palette from me, any palette works. I'll kind of try to go over how to mix the colors. This is yellow ochre. If you don't have it in your palette, try to use some brown along with some yellow to adjust, and maybe even white if you have it in your palette, to try to adjust to get a similar color. My palette and book will be in the description if you're interested in purchasing it. Basically, you want to get a pretty strong amount of pigment in your mixture here, and we will start by just laying it down heavily, very heavily, on the wing here, and then I'll show you where else. But we want to add an emphasis on the darker areas because the light source in this image is very strong. So what we're doing is we're overemphasizing the color, the pigment in the darker areas. So we're just going to throw a bunch in here and in here, like so. And also back here for the claw that's gripping onto the rock. Same with this one. Okay, we're gonna rinse off our brush almost completely, and there's gonna be a bit of water on the brush now. So we're just gonna go along the edge here, and then just kind of pick up what we can from what we laid down, and then just kind of pull it out, and then rinse off our brush completely. And then just use that pigment that we pulled out to just kind of layer in the rest of the color here onto the wing. And same with right here. We're just going to pull off the color from what we already laid down. And same for the little claw here and the one over here. Now that already gives a very strong sense of contrast from the light and where the dark is. And that's what we're going for. So we'll go ahead and we'll grab a little more pigment here to go in, kind of like the detail here. It's okay if it runs into other places. I'm going to add a little more here. We'll go ahead and we'll adjust where it runs in a moment. So we're just kind of adding the color here. Rinse off our brush completely, dry it off, and then pick up the excess right here. Pick up the excess and kind of run the color a little bit like that. Color in back here, and pull it off in here. Add some water to my brush and then just kind of color it in right here. And dry it off and then pull off some color in here. That's a little bit of a different way to add color in the base than what we were doing before. This isn't a flat wash. It's a lot more textured. It's a lot more dynamic in in the way of the process of laying it down. But you can see how you can create darks and highlights with the same color very quickly. I really love using this method. Not always, but you know, when I can. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add more of the saturated pigment on the tail, like that. Rinse off my brush completely, even dry it off a little bit, not entirely, and then just pull off some of that color in here, like that. And get some of it in here, in the tail. Okay, good. So that's looking pretty good so far. I'm gonna rinse off my brush. Next, we want to mix up some purple. The way we'll do that is we'll grab the dark blue here, and get it in the corner right here, and get a bunch of it. And you want heavy pigment. So this one is there's a lot of contrasting elements in this piece, so there's a lot of heavy pigmented colors. Then we're gonna grab the pink, and look at that. That's a really nice purple right there. Perfect. That's exactly what we're going for. Actually, we'll add a little more blue, so make it a little cooler. We don't want it to be so purple. Okay, there we go. So now, what we'll do is, on the neck here, towards the base of the neck, we're gonna go in on the side, like this, and then add a bit more down here. Just like that. Perfect. And a little bit here as an outline on the side. Okay. Now, we're gonna rinse off our brush completely. And I'm gonna leave the brush tip is still wet, so we're just gonna get the color and pull it up from what we laid down. We're just gonna pull it up, going up the neck, stopping right here underneath the jaw. And feel free to rub in some of the edge so to mix it up. Maybe dry off your brush and kind of move some of that. It kind of like fades it in. And it looks better. Great. Okay. So it's looking really good so far. Now then, we're gonna add some water and then grab this purple that we have right here. Maybe do a couple of practice strokes for the thinner lines. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do right on top of what we did previously. I'm gonna add some outlines like that. Here in the claws, back here, a little bit for the wing, because of there's intense shadows in this piece. Maybe a little bit like that, down here. And you see how, as I'm adding it on, the pigment amount reduces, so it's not as intense as it was back here. So I can still use it as a way to make a shadow. And because it's a complementary color for the one that we laid down for the foundation, it gives it a very nice appearance of a shadow. Like that. A little bit in here. Maybe like that. Maybe a little more. And as I'm picking it up, I'm not picking up directly from the concentration, a little bit from the edges, so that it doesn't come off as intense as it did down here. Like that. Like that. Like there we go. Maybe a little bit over here. And a little bit back here. Kind of covering that up because there's more shadow. And then like that. And then like that. more water. Getting a bit more of the color. Like just a little bit there and there and there. And underneath here. Underneath these spikes. And you can see kind of how we're just building out the shadows. It looks a little unique because we're using the complementary color to build that up. But as we add more, you'll see how it looks much more dynamic. It just looks much better. Here on the tail, right there, that. A little bit here where the ear of the dragon is. A little bit here under the jaw. Maybe a little bit up here to show depth. Okay, so that's looking good. It's looking pretty good so far. Now then, I'm going to rinse off my brush. While that's drying off, I'm going to go ahead and get a little bit of black right here. A little bit of blue. And just kind of mix it up. And that's going to be the color of the rock that the dragon is standing on. And we're going to mix up this one's going to be a flat wash. This one's going to be just a very flat wash. I'm going to go right there. Use as much water as you need to stretch out the wash. There we go. Don't worry if you cross the lines a little bit. Not a big deal. Going in. Add your wash. Okay, it's looking good. A little more water. Stretch it out. There we go. Perfect. I'll rinse off my brush. Okay, now while that's drying off, what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix these two colors together. I'm wondering if I should just I'll just mix it over here on the side. Make it a little easier. So I'm just gonna add the yellow ochre and some of the blue, dark blue, there we go. And some of the pink here, or the, yeah, pinkish purple, and more blue, more blue, a little more of that. A little more of that. Yeah, that's about right. Okay, so that's looking good. I'm gonna add an outline, first starting going around the shoulder here. Some more depth to the shadow here. And then kind of outline on the side. Maybe do some lines here for how the neck goes to go with that. There we go. And some outlines here, down here. Just emphasizing the darker parts of where the shadows fall. Like that. And feel free to kind of like do a brush stroke. Feel free to show the texture of the brush as you're laying down the color. It makes the image look more interesting. Like that. And a little bit here. This section right here is the darkest in the image. That's why I'm going so heavily repeating it with the darker colors. Like that. And then we can now emphasize the shadow a little more on the spikes back here. We can pretty much cover this one entirely. A bit of an outline, like that, like that. Here we go. Right here. We could probably even cover this one entirely. And then do a little more here. Here. And outline the jaw there. And also right here. And the mouth. There we go. And right there. Okay. And I'm gonna darken up this one back here behind the spikes, just so we can kind of differentiate the spikes a little better. And there, there. There we go. Maybe a little bit over here, like that. A little bit right there. There. You don't have to be like perfectly precise with it. And then on the tail, like that. Maybe a little bit of an outline here, here, there. Okay, it's all looking pretty good so far. I'm gonna rinse off my brush. And I'm gonna grab the black here. I'm gonna grab a little bit of the brown also. I don't want it to be just a pure black. And kind of like dilute it a bit to add the shadow on the stone. And go right there, a bit like that. Kind of bold strokes right there. So this would be in shadow right here. Kind of like that. Same right here, in between the toes. Gonna cover this, like that. Over here. Notice how when I lay down the dark color right next to the light color, notice how much the light color pops when you add in the dark color. There we go. Look at that. It's looking good. A little bit of a shadow underneath the wing there. And then here for the rock, a bit like that. Also right here a little bit. And then maybe over here. Kind of like choppy lines, because you know, like rocks have a lot of that kind of like choppy edges. I'm gonna rinse off my brush a little bit. There's still paint left on it, so I can kind of use it to throw in some shadows, like here or here. There we go. There we go. Perfect. I'm going to dry off my brush. I will be adding another layer of shadows in the rock, But for now, I'm just gonna rinse off my brush. And then I'm going to clear this up a little bit. I'm gonna mix up the background color. I'm just gonna grab some blue, add some water, and honestly, I'm just gonna do some random strokes in the back, kind of like that. I'm not really thinking too much about how the background looks, other than just laying in the color and trying not to get it inside of the dragon. The central piece is obviously the dragon, so I'm not gonna worry too much about how the background looks. Maybe try to dilute some of that though. Like that. And grab a little bit right here. The reason I make the strokes like this in the background is to try to make it look kind of like hint which way the light is coming from. I'm just gonna color all this in. And a little bit right there. And rinse my brush. That's looking pretty good. I'm gonna add a little more blue here to the purple. A little more blue. Actually, let me add some more red here. Let me see something. Yeah, I'm gonna need more blue. Okay, that's a nice dark bluish purple. So basically I'm just gonna go back in and again go over some of the outlines down here, maybe like this. And you can it looks really dark right now when I lay it down because it's wet, but watch how it'll kind of fade as it dries. Just like these marks right here that I'm going over right now. Previously they were much darker. Add some outlines. This time I'm not going over the whole thing, I'm just kind of making lines. There's some outlines here. And outlines there. We're really trying to make things pop here. Okay, maybe cover this one in a little more. Sorry, I'll try to move my arm so it's not blocking the view in any way. Going in there. Like that. That. I'm just gonna go slowly. Okay, there we go. Like that, like that. Maybe a little more there. Okay. Outline here. Phew. Okay. It's looking pretty good. We're like 80% done. We're almost done. So next I'm gonna draft my brush a little bit. Pick up the black brown that we had mixed earlier. I'm just gonna add a little bit right here. Like that. The emphasis on the shadows, I'm not gonna put it everywhere because I want there to be a variation. I'll put it right there. Maybe outline this rock on the back here a little bit like that. Outline this. In between the toes here again. Maybe make a mark like that. And in between these toes, definitely much darker here. There we go. Underneath here. There. And just maybe some outlines here and here. Okay, cool. Rinse off my brush. So we're pretty much done with the coloring part. Next, we're gonna go into the outlines. And for this one, there isn't really a lot of outlines. Again, you could do the outlines with a pen or a dip pen or a fountain pen. You could do it with the brush. I'm gonna try to do some here with the brush. Let's see, hopefully I don't mess it up. You gotta be really careful with the brush. So what you want to do if you're trying to do thin lines with the brush is get some pigment on there and then maybe kind of like sculpt the brush head a little bit so you can get like a nice point, like a nice thin line. But you also kind of have to go slow in order to be able to do that. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that for the eye here. Here for the ear, a little bit of an outline here. The back of this spike and this spike. Maybe this one. That one. There we go. And over here for the mouth, for the jowls. There we go, like that. A little bit of the nostrils. And down here underneath the chin, again emphasizing the form. And just very slowly get more black. And then here I don't have to worry as much about being as perfect with the lines, therefore I'm not like going really slowly or anything. There we go. A little bit over here on on the back of the claw here, the back of this claw. Okay, maybe these claws right here. Maybe a little bit right there. And a little bit on the tail. And back of these spikes. There we go. I'm going to step back for a moment, see how it looks. yeah, I would say that looks pretty spot on. I'm very happy with that, with how that turned out. Okay, yeah, so that looks pretty good. That looks very close to the original. I'm actually very happy how that turned out. And you can go in and outline it with a pen if you wanted to and add more texture, but that's pretty much it. Sometimes it's nice to start off with a really concentrated dose of paint because it can help you get really high contrast in the colors. But if you have any questions about any of that, please just leave it in the comments, email me, DM me, whatever works. And I will see you next time.